What's up, guys? This is Manga, and I decided that today I wanted to discuss some of the manga that I have been reading online over the past couple of months. And so, yeah, let's get right into it. I've been reading about 27 series over the past month online. Some of them weekly, some of them in bulk, and some of them catching up, and etc., etc. So I'm going to go down my list and give like the brief summary that is on AniList, which is the website that I mainly use to record what manga and anime that I have watched. So first up is Tenmaku Cinema, the exciting new series from the creators of Food Wars, Extreme Movie Lover, Hajime Shinichi, and the ghost of the mysterious genius writer Takehiko Tenmaku. Their meeting will provide some serious plot twists. It's ready, set, action for this coming-of-age series. This is a weekly Shonen Jump series that I have slowly come to enjoy. I wasn't very fond of it early on, but I've come to appreciate what the creator of Food Wars has been doing with the series, and I have started to enjoy it more. Next up is Kill Blue. A graduate from the School of Hard Knocks, Hitman Ogami faces his greatest challenge yet, middle school. This series is actually pretty good. I've enjoyed it pretty much from the beginning. It kind of has a Detective Conan type story where the main character is like this hitman dude who he ends up getting turned into a smaller child because of some mysterious bad guy, and he's forced to go into middle school and relive a lot of the experiences that he's already gone through, but from a new light. And I've really enjoyed it so far. It's kind of funny and very unique. Next is Jiangxi X. A silent darkness threatens 1,000 years of peace. Who can stand up to a great evil? And Jiangxi? Young warriors become the light that defeats despair. Welcome to this new Chinese battle fantasy series. This is alright. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a Chinese battle fantasy series. It's very unique. We get a lot of manga and anime that are very heavily Japanese inspired, so I like the change with Chinese inspired anime, kind of like Dragon Ball. OG Dragon Ball is very heavily inspired by Chinese culture, and I like what Jiangxi X is doing. And yeah, it's pretty like standard battle shonen type stuff. Next up is Icehead Gil. In the land of ashen snow, known as Great Ice, a young man named Gil Sol has been chased from the capital for some reason. On northern Urchin Island, Gil uses his axe skills to work for Lord Mela, but someone has come looking for him. Use your axe to defy destiny. The adventure of the Ice Boy begins now. This is a pretty good shonen series. I think it has a lot of like early Hunter vibes, and I think it has potential to really become this new fantasy series in Weekly Shonen Jump that I think it desperately needs, with One Piece kind of nearing its end and also Hunter x Hunter being out of the magazine for so long. It really needs this type of fantasy adventure shonen that we haven't really had in a long while in Shonen Jump. Next up is Do Retry. In post-war Japan, war orphan Aozora will swing his fists to protect his little sister. It's a series about boxing, but there's also like some superpowers involved, and I actually really liked it early on, but as I've started to read more chapters, it's kind of fallen off for me. A lot of it has to do with the art style, and the power system or whatever is going on is very vague and it hasn't really been defined, and I haven't really enjoyed it that much. News Exorcist is Yajima has been able to see spirits since he was small. At his new school, there is a room that nobody else can see. Inside is a spirit who loves playing video games. A new modern Exorcist saga now begins. This is extremely generic. It's pretty much just a rehash of Jujutsu Kaisen, but with some differences, and it takes elements from different other shonen and kind of combine them. At first, I actually enjoyed it a lot. I thought it had a lot of good qualities, but now it's like kind of become more and more obvious how generic it is, and I don't think it has the potential to last in Shonen Jump, and I don't think it's that good at all. Next up is Martial Master Asumi. Nito is living a quiet high school life while taking care of his disabled grandpa, but thanks to an encounter with a schoolmate striving to be a pro female MMA fighter, this serious MMA story is an all-out battle. This series is exactly what Do Retry is trying to be, but better. This is really enjoyed this series. I actually was not super confident in this series going in, but I've really come to enjoy Martial Master Asumi, and I think it has some serious potential in Shonen Jump. And I feel like there's kind of a battle between Do Retry and Martial Master Asumi, but I feel like Martial Master Asumi will survive. And I really like the fact that the title actually the initials for the title is actually MMA. I feel like that's a really nice touch by the creator. Up next is Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins. Tsubasa Ichinose is a middle schooler who loses his memory in an accident. He's able to safely reunite with his family, but is soon faced with a new shocking reality. What is going on with this family? This is a wild ride, and I feel like this is something that it does have some parts that seem a bit repetitive, and I feel like it kind of repeats a lot, but I feel like that it's going in a very unique direction, and it is the wildest thing that I've read in Shonen Jump, and it constantly has new twists and new turns, and I haven't really seen anything like it. Next up is Fabricant 100. There once was a doctor fixated on creating the ideal human being. After the doctor's death, his fabricant creations start attacking humans in order to attain the perfect body. When Yashibi Yao's entire family is murdered by these fabricants, he sets out on a journey of revenge, accompanied by the doctor's final creation, Fabricant 100. This is a very unique series, kind of like with Icehead Gill. This has a very fantasy element that is much needed in Shonen Jump, and I feel like it is now here to stay. There were some rocky elements to it early on, but I feel like this has some potential. It has several Hunter x Hunter elements to it, and I feel like it stands out amongst all of the different Demon Hunter type series that is out there. Next up is our first non-weekly Shonen Jump series, Wild Strawberry. Plants have evolved. They can now feed on humans and become terrible monsters known as Jinka. Kingo and Kayano do their best to survive in a Tokyo overrun by plants, but when Kayano becomes a Jinka, Kingo will do anything he can to get her back. This is a pretty interesting story. There's only 3 chapters out so far. Very interesting world, very good art, and I am excited to see where the story goes. Now, these next few will be some series that you are already well familiar with, but are just series that I've been reading. Chainsaw Man, One Piece. I recently got caught up to Hunter x Hunter. I had been around chapter 350, but then I recently binged the last 50 or so chapters to get caught up on Hunter x Hunter. Next up is Naruto The Whirl Within the Spiral, the story of Namikaze Minato, the winner of the worldwide popularity poll project Naruto OP99. Just how exactly did Minato, the father of Naruto, develop a certain jutsu? This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a short story that the creator of Naruto did a while back, and it is a manga that essentially tells the story of how the Rasengan is created by Minato. It's pretty good, and it's only like 50 or so pages. It's not that long of a read. Sup guys, I want to take 1 second of your time to talk about one little thing. With the recent rise in manga prices, it can be a little expensive to continue collecting on manga. So that's why I highly recommend you guys use Takara Cafe for any and all manga purchases. On the website, all manga is 20% off, and then there are tons of different ways to kind of bring down that manga price. And if you use coupon code Magnus22, you can get another 10% off your purchase. So I highly recommend you check out Takara Cafe today. Next up is Beat in Motion, the winner of the Million Tag Manga Competition. A new era of manga begins with this series about the struggle and joy of creating art. Anime and music collide in this new series about growing up and reaching for your dreams. This is actually a pretty good series. It's essentially about this guy who he kind of drifting from different hobby to hobby, doesn't really have a specific goal in mind, and recently he's gotten into animation, and he meets this music artist that he really appreciates and is an inspiration to him, and they start a collab and are doing different stuff. From what I've heard, the Million Tag Manga competition, eventually this will get an anime even though it's only been out for like 12 chapters, and that's because of the competition that it was in. I think Netflix was essentially saying the winner of this competition will get whatever manga for however long it lasts, it will get fully animated. And I think that's really cool, and I think it's a story that is actually really good. It kind of has a little bit of Bakuman elements to it, in the fact that you're kind of learning a little bit about animation, but the characters are very much like, they're like older, and they don't have the same struggles as like a high school kid does. So that's pretty good. Next up is Shibatarian. In the spring of my 3rd year of middle school, I found Shibata buried beneath a sakura tree. We watched movies and became fast friends, even planned to make a movie together for the school festival, but no one at school seems to know him. I will discover Shibata, and the whole world will turn into Shibata. This is the story of, by, and for Shibata, now showing in a theater near you. This is a really interesting horror-esque manga. It's only got a couple chapters out, and it's really unique, and I think it is definitely worth checking out. Next up is Shoha Shoten, a high schooler who submits jokes to radio shows and a former child actor aim for the top of the comedy world. This is literally Bakuman, but for comedy, and I know 2 Bakuman references in the same video, and this one is especially big for being a Bakuman reference is because the artist for this series is the same artist for Bakuman, Death Note, Platinum End, Hikaru no Go, Takashi Obata. It's pretty good. It's only got a couple, like 19 or 20 chapters out, and it already has a physical release, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's pretty good. Highly recommend it if you really like Bakuman. The main downside to it is the fact that it's like, the comedy is definitely meant to be heard and seen, when you're just reading it. Next up is the series taking the manga world in Japan by storm. It is Kindergarten Wars. It kind of has some Spy Family-like elements, but let's get into the summary. Welcome to Kindergarten Noir, an exclusive school catering to the children of the global elite. Rita, one of the teachers, has been on the hunt for a boyfriend, but has absolutely zero luck so far. One day, an assassin comes after one of the children, and he's totally dreamy. Dive into this action-packed rom-com as it unfolds inside the world's safest kindergarten. So this is a crazy series where essentially it's this kindergarten where the world's elite go, and it is the safest kindergarten in the world. And essentially they hire former assassins who are essentially on death row, and they act as bodyguards for the children as a way to prevent themselves from being killed. It's pretty good. It's pretty funny. I highly recommend it. Next up is Oshinoko. I got caught up to the series, and it's pretty crazy. You and I are polar opposites. Suzuki, an energetic girl who can't help but follow the crowd, finds herself drawn to Tani, a quiet boy who can easily speak his mind. Enter the serialization of a hit one-shot, a story for anyone who wants to enjoy love. This down-to-earth, relatable rom-com is ready to pull at your heartstrings. This is a pretty good rom-com type series that has some great art and some fun story, and some highly relatable characters. There's one guy in particular, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I relate to him a ton. Next up is Hokkaido Gals Are Super Adorable. High school boy Tsubasa moves to Katama City up in Hokkaido, where he meets a gal at a bus stop. The sight of her standing alone against the white snow cape, bare-legged despite the freezing cold, captures his heart. This is a pretty good high school rom-com type series. It's kind of generic, but like, it's pretty good. I'm surprised it's lasts as long as it has, because I've read a couple of other series that are pretty similar but got axed at around 40 something chapters, and this is still ongoing, but it's pretty good. Next up is Teenage Renaissance David. While he may resemble a world-famous work of art, David is just your average high school student attending Louvre High School. This awkward boy, flustered by puberty, has fallen in love with his classmate Venus. What kind of troubles will the rocky road to romance have in store? Even Michelangelo would be shocked. An outrageous comedy in the everyday life of a teenager. This is really funny. I have no idea how this got canceled. I think it was in Shonen Jump. I'm not 100% certain. But this is really funny. I really enjoy this series. As someone who enjoys like classical art and different stuff like that, there's a lot of different influence that art has on this series, and there's a ton of references everywhere. Next up, Don't Blush, Sekimi-san. I'm the only one who knows the true face of this popular girl, Sekimi-san. Thus begins a romantic comedy between my overly shy girlfriend and I. This is a pretty short series, and I could definitely tell that it was trying to stay alive because it kept introducing a bunch of new characters later on in the story, and I think it's because it took too long and it stayed on one gag for way too long. But it's alright. Next up, I got caught up to Kaguya-sama Love is War. I am really sad to see it go, and I really enjoyed the series as a whole. It's so good. Next up is Futari Switch. Shinichi and Ichigo, who are childhood friends among their neighbors, are first-year high school students in the middle of their youth. There was a longing person who had a feeling for each of them, but they couldn't get close to each other just by looking at their favorite person from a distance. But one day in early summer, a bitter gourd-related incident changed their daily lives. This is by the creator of Prison School, and this is pretty much just horny your name. It's alright. It's getting better. Next up is Monsters, which is a one-shot. This by the creator of One Piece. This story follows the legendary samurai Ryuma. This one-shot is also part of the collection Wanted. This is literally just a short story about Ryuma. This is getting animated eventually, and so I decided to go ahead and read it. And last up is Renai Daiko. Half Japanese, half Swedish, Maria Winter Nanase has everything in life. She was raised in a well-off family in Scandinavia and America. She is popular among the girls, and she has good looks. However, she is missing one thing. She can't talk to boys. After picking up a book on love in the library, she found a suspicious-looking ad on the back. The ad was for a love agency, a service promising a pro in love to handle your love for you. When she scans it, an agent called Konchan pops out and promises to help her fall in love with her crush. However, her crush, Masaya Seki, isn't so innocent in his ways either, and is also using the app to get with her. How will this pair of hopeless lovers turn out? This is by the creator of Kaguya-sama and Oshinoko, Aka Akasaka. And it's pretty good. There's only about 9 chapters out, so it's still pretty early on. But it definitely has a very similar feel to Love is War, more so than Oshinoko. So there you have it. Here are a bunch of the different manga that I read in July digitally. I wanted to do this video because I don't really get to show off what I'm reading digitally. Kind of get a good idea of what I read physically through the manga that I collect. But so there you have it. Hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you have been reading digitally, or what series have piques your interest out of these 27 different series. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Ciao.